Hello, I'm Greg Mehlin, and welcome to Cinema Sit Down, a show where myself and other film buffs come together to talk movies. Today we'll be discussing the Marvel Cinematic Universe's newest release, Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. Written and directed by Destin Daniel Cretton, the film stars Simu Liu as the titular Shang-Chi, a Chinese-born American martial artist who's forced to confront his past when his criminal father enters back into his life. I'm joined today by Bobby Steiner and Michael Stamm. How you guys doing?
I'm good.
I'm doing good, Greg. I'm pleasure to be on the show. I really love this movie, so I'm excited to talk about it.
All right, well, so let's just get right into our initial opinions then. Michael, you said you love this movie. How about you start us out?
Yeah, it was probably one of my favorite Marvel movies. Here's the thing. I love the Marvel shows. Black Widow was okay. It was just nice to see the movies come back. You know, it's been a while since Endgame, or it feels like it's been a while. And it was just a different type of Marvel movie too. I feel like every Marvel movie is so, combat and with, guns and shooting and stuff. And this one was a lot of the old martial arts and fighting. And it was a real treat for the eyes with the visuals that were, really distinct for this movie that we don't really see much in other MCU movies. The fight scenes were amazing. The soundtrack was amazing. And it was just an all-around really fun movie to watch.
I agree with them. See, my thing is, I'm like an outsider to the whole MCU thing. I've only seen it like 7 of the movies and none of the shows on Disney Plus. But this movie is fantastic, and for an outsider like myself to say that, it definitely sort of means something. But yeah, no, I agree with them on a lot of the things, especially the combat. It was definitely a refreshing thing to see.
All right, yeah, I'm in agreement with you guys. I thought that this movie was great. Just a lot of fun, very exciting. It was, you said after Black Widow, their most recent besides this film, which was sort of a little uneven then. I thought that this was an excellent return to form, especially since with the pandemic, we've been seeing a lack of cinematic Marvel content for a little while. And this was just, I knew nothing about Shang-Chi going in. I kept saying Shang-Chi the months before this, and I was just really, really pleased with the whole thing. And so on that topic, what would you guys say you think were some of the major highlights of this movie? And possibly, we're all in agreement that's good, but if anybody had any downsides to it that they want to list, you could do that too.
Yeah, one of the major upsides to this movie, in my opinion, was, I'm a fan of the old kung fu movies. I feel like I know a good amount about them, and you could really see how the director brought those old movies into this one, using those old styles, that Jackie Chan type work. And it was just a really great story from start to finish. You really were always on your the edge of your seat, felt really connected to the character, which sometimes I feel like you don't feel connected. I feel like sometimes you're watching a movie and then something will happen off screen and they're on a different part of their life. But this movie, I feel like we saw every part of Shang-Chi's life in front of us. The development of the character, the development of the side characters. The writing was very good. The direction I really loved. The acting was, that was superb. Simu Lee's first lead role. I loved him there, and I'm really excited to see where they take this character. So maybe the only downside for me, spoiler alert, if anybody is watching this and hasn't seen the movie, is I feel that at the end when Katie shoots the arrow into that hits whatever they call those big dragon type things, and it takes it down. It just seemed a little cheesy at the end that Katie had to get the final kill. It was like they had to add something for her, but it didn't take away from any other part of the movie for me. It was 9 out of 10 for me.
Michael hit all the points that I was going to talk about. The characterization was fantastic, development and all that, even all the minor characters. But yeah, no, I definitely agree. My big gripe was how Katie at the end. You could see it from a mile away. This is going to be a spoiler, but I did like that whole like character arc she had where she was one of the archers, but no, I can tell from a mile away that she would get the final hit on him. But other than that, it was still a fantastic movie.
I'm going to agree with what was mentioned. I thought that the fight scenes were an enormous highlight in this. Marvel is typically very good with action, though this was like a much more different style than what they usually do. And I thought that this was some of the best action that we've ever seen in the MCU. It was really thrilling stuff. And, the fact that they actually got actors who are like in like stellar shape. Like, I mean, I saw it like, he's shirtless like in his first scene. Like that dude did all the stunts here.
He was ripped. He was ripped.
Yeah. But no, so that was awesome. And also, it was great to see, all the cultural representation in this movie, which in a very similar manner to with Black Panther, where it really makes that known, but it does it in a way that it doesn't feel like you're ever being beaten over the head with the representation. It's all very fluid. It's all integrated into the story, and it's a great way for like these blockbusters to get that stuff out there too. I also, actually, this would be on for the next segment. So, what did you guys think of the story here?
I thought the story was fantastic. I love that just in the first 10 minutes, this is kind of a little sidetrack, but in the first 10 minutes, they only spoke the native language. Like you don't hear English till really 10 minutes in. And that was really cool how it didn't feel forced because the story just put it in there naturally. Everything else in the story felt great. I loved the character development. I mean, I talked about the Katie part, but that didn't really take away anything from the story. If that was there, if that wasn't there, it would have been fine, but it was there and it was whatever. That's just normal Marvel movies. There's always going to be one little cheesy part. But I really loved the whole thing and the ending too, with Wong opening it up and taking in Shang-Chi and Katie and saying like pretty much welcome to the Avengers, like this is your life now. It was a really cool ending, and not even ending because it was a really cool transition into the next phase for this character and where we'll see him next.
Yeah, I loved the story. Going into this, I knew I don't really know much about Marvel, but I knew somehow even less about Shang-Chi. But by the end, I knew so much about him and like his whole little world, and even all the side characters did a great job getting backstory on them. This is just such a well done origin story, in my opinion, and I'm looking forward to see what they do next with this.
Yep, I agree with all that. I'll say some that I really liked about the story is that so this is a sort of origin story. This is the first time that we've seen this character in this cinematic universe, but it was done in a way like typically it's like, all right, you got to get through like the whole first act, and then now he's got his powers and all that. Like I was happy that like early on we see like we get like the hints of his backstory, and then we see him like much later and he's already like this total badass martial artist then. So we're getting the action going really fast, but we're still learning a lot about him throughout. And I thought that was an exciting way to do things. It was like this film, it felt like it was really good at just keeping pace throughout the whole thing, like constantly hitting you with new big information. It didn't feel like any scenes were like a real waste or anything like that. It just kept you engaged because of that, the whole thing. And so moving on, and I'll take the lead here with what do we think of the characters and the cast? And I'm going to say we've already mentioned Simu Liu. Like this is his first big movie, and I thought that he killed it as Shang-Chi. He's an incredibly like charming individual. He's got all that charisma, and he's got humor and depth, and he really helped carry this thing and to make that character his own. And I really enjoyed his work here, and I'm excited to see what he does both as this character and hopefully in a lot of other projects throughout. I also thought the character Katie, played by Aquafina, I thought that she was a lot of fun. It's the comic relief is always something that's a little risky, like how much do we need of it? But I thought that here they pulled it back enough that it never overstayed its welcome, and she was very humorous throughout and had some good like dramatic moments even. And also So playing the villain Wenwu, Tony Leung, who is making his actual Hollywood debut here. He's a big actor elsewhere, but I thought that he was a really thrilling presence, and I thought he was a very like engaging, threatening, and sympathetic villain. Like you really got where he was going here, and you felt for him, even though you knew that he was like pretty reprehensible.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with you, Greg. I love the characters here. You brought up a lot, Simu Liu as Shang-Chi. He was just great. He took the role and he really made it special. He didn't feel like it felt perfect for him, just like Robert Downey Jr. felt perfect for Iron Man, just like Thor felt perfect for Chris Hemsworth. Like this feels perfect for Simu Liu, and it's going to be really exciting to see where he take it. I've said that a couple of times. Aquafina was great as Katie too, like you said. Sometimes they could be overboard with the jokes and the corniness, but they did a good job here, and she did a really good job as Katie. One thing that we haven't brought up too, I love that they brought back Ben Kingsley as Trevor Slattery from Iron Man, and they kind of continued his story. I thought that was so cool because that could have been a question if they didn't bring it up at all. Like, okay, what? There was that little short that I think Marvel came out with where it showed that the Mandarin knew about Trevor Slattery, and then they took him. I love how they kind of closed that question of what happened there, and they brought him back and they kind of continued his story. And Ben Kingsley just did such a great job. He was hilarious, and everyone else too. I didn't have a problem with any characters. I feel like everybody was perfect for the role. The casting was great, and it really made the movie so much fun to watch.
Yeah, I feel like casting wise, they did a great job with everybody. I feel like it was just sort of like each actor and actress fitting into their role was like just a jigsaw getting put together to make a fantastic movie. I'm very glad they brought Trevor back from Iron Man 3. I kind of was hoping they would do more with him. He was one of my favorite parts of Iron Man 3, but still, what they had of him was fantastic. And Aquafina did a great job as Katie. I didn't know what to expect. I never really watched any of her like Comedy Central show or anything, but yeah, she was probably my favorite character, honestly. Very surprising there, and I like what they did with her towards the end as well.
Moving on, what do we think? Like, are we excited about like the future of these characters then in the MCU? I'm gonna just say like I definitely am, because this was for the most part fairly unconnected to the other Marvel movies. I mean, we, as represented by the fact that we have someone here who liked it a lot, but admitted they haven't seen too many of them then. So I would be very interested to see how exactly this story is going to unfold in the future, and how Shang-Chi will fit in with other Avengers and whatnot.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, Bobby, you haven't seen many Marvel movies, but you could still watch this movie and you could still enjoy it. That was one of the favorite parts of the movie, is that you can enjoy it without really having to watch all the other 24 movies. I think there are 20 something. But at the end is where they really connected, even with the post-credit scenes, where Wong comes in and he is pretty much saying, you have Bruce Banner and you have Captain Marvel, and they're like, welcome to the Avengers. Like, it's about to get crazy. There's a lot you need to know. And they really set up the possibility with the rings, saying like, we don't know where these come from. So that's going to be a storyline we're going to need to figure out, because people are going to want these rings, bad people, and Shang-Chi and all the rest of the Avengers. They're going to have to come together and stop them. And then the second post-credit scene was maybe even my favorite, watching Shang-Chi's sister, I forget her name, for Xi Ling, watching her kind of take over the 10 rings and not dismantle it, but actually build it back up and saying, no, I own the 10 rings now, I'm in charge. And then they end it with the 10 rings will be back. And that just opens up everything. Will they come back maybe as a Disney Plus show or in a separate movie? It really opens up the possibility of where you don't even have to have Shang-Chi in the movie. You can just have the 10 rings as this group that is bringing a lot of danger to the cinematic universe, to Marvel. And it was a lot of fun and exciting to watch and think about, whoa, this can go anywhere.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to see what they do with all this. The whole post, and I didn't. I'll admit it again. I think I said this earlier, but I didn't watch WandaVision or Falcon and Winter Soldier, so I don't really know much of like the post Endgame lore. But that post credit scene with Wong really did a great job of tying it all in, and I'm very much looking forward to see what they do from there.
How do we think? So we all like this. How do we think this compares to the overall MCU and even then superhero movies in general? Like, where do we think this falls on the spectrum of quality, and what sets it apart?
Well, what sets it apart is what I brought up before, is that so many superhero movies lately, especially in Marvel, are so with shooting, and the combat is it's not hands-on. You know, you maybe get you get punches thrown by Black Widow, or you get Black Panther getting up in there and knocking everybody out. But this was just so different. We haven't seen this before in Marvel, and I'm trying to think if we've seen this before in this new era of superhero movies. I can't quite compare it to anything, and that's why I loved it so much. I could definitely rank it as one of my favorite non-Avengers movies. You know, I love the Captain America movies. I love Black Panther. I love the Thor Ragnarok, but this is definitely up there with some of my favorites. And it's so rewatchable, which is something that I really take into consideration. Like, will I watch this again? Will I be scrolling on Disney Plus in 3 years and saying, oh, I want to watch this movie again? And that's it. I definitely feel like I will be.
In terms of Marvel movies, I definitely put this in like the upper tier for just like standalone non-Avenger movies. Definitely. I always felt as if a lot of these like standalone Marvel movies over the last few years followed the same formula and structure and in how they do combat, but it definitely was a breath of fresh air to see something like this for a non-Marvel fan. And in regards to superhero movies in general, I do feel like this is one of the best ones we've gotten recently. I want to compare this in a way to Suicide Squad, the new one that came out a few months ago, and like how unique it was, how it definitely sort of was a breath of fresh air again into something that I feel has gotten so formulaic lately.
I agree. I would put this, I don't know where, but it is definitely somewhere in the upper tier of Marvel movies. And I agree with the sort of breath of fresh air thing. Like, this isn't like breaking the formula set by these movies, but it does feel like it does enough tinkering around there that really helps it have its own unique feel. So, final thoughts on the film, though. Do we recommend it? I mean, anybody who's watching this has already heard a few spoilers already, so I hope that they've already seen it. But and I'll start this out. Yes, I obviously recommend this film. If you're a Marvel fan, then absolutely watch it. And even if you're not like too big into Marvel, as we discussed, it is sort of contained on its own enough that you can enjoy like all the merit and story and characters here and not ever get lost. Like, it's only with like the first post-credit scene that you may be thinking, what the hell does that mean? But besides that, it's very accessible and it's just a good movie, so go watch it.
Yeah, I would recommend it to Marvel fans, to anybody that likes that kung fu based combat. The fighting in here was spectacular. So if you like that type of action, then this is definitely something I would check out. If obviously if you're a Marvel fan, I think you're already seeing it. And the story was just perfect in my opinion. So go watch it, have a good time.
I definitely recommend it for if Marvel fans haven't seen it, definitely, and even non-Marvel fans, this definitely acts as sort of a good gateway into it. Like, now I feel like I'm obligated to go see all the other movies now, to see everything leading up to that post-credit scene. So it's gonna take a while, but I'll definitely get it down. I recommend that if you haven't, you should probably do it too.
Just skip the Incredible Hulk. It's the only one you don't need to watch.
Yeah, that's what I was telling me. Yeah,
Basically,
I skipped that one.
And maybe skip Thor: The Dark World. That has some stuff of importance, I guess, but nobody cares about it. Nobody cares about that one. Anyway, so this has been a great show and all that. So thank you, guys, for coming on here and bringing all your wonderful insights. And so, obviously, more of Cinema Sit Down will follow. and all kinds of things on pirate TV at the moment. So stay tuned for that, and thank you for watching.